Hey guys, it's Adam from ATP Powerlifting, and recently Elite FTS posted a YouTube video by Swede Burns titled something along the lines of why you should not pause your bench press. Today I'm going to actually go against that, and I'm going to give you reasons why you should pause your bench press.
Each rep when doing your main bench work.
That is actually a point of contention in fist set. Should you pause your main work? And I say no.
First off, I do want to say I'm not advocating that you only pause your bench press, but I am advocating that most of your bench press work, especially work that's done in the competition form, is done with a pause. You can be doing other movements on other days that are, say, touch and go, but the majority of your bench work should be paused, and you should be doing some type of pause work on a week-to-week basis. So in this video, I'm not going to label it only as why powerlifters should do a pause. I am going to address that, but I'm going to tell you why I think someone learning the bench press should perform the bench press with a pause, why a powerlifter should perform the bench press with a pause, and why a bodybuilder should do some of their work with a pause. First off, why should someone that has no intentions of ever doing a powerlifting meet pause their bench press? So then we're going to start off with someone who's just learning how to bench press. Why should they perform the bench press with a pause? So the main overall reason is going to be that it teaches good technique, but it teaches it in three very specific ways. The first one's going to be that it teaches correct eccentric speed coming down. So if you have to come down preparing to pause, you're most likely going to have to teach yourself to come down at a nice, gradual, consistent speed. When you see people who tap, and especially when they're first learning how to bench press and they're tapping, going the bar, they come down at normal speed and they either slow down quite a bit right before the tap, or they come down and they dive bomb the bottom to try to get a whole bunch of momentum out of the bottom of the bench press. So by adding that pause in there, it makes the eccentric speed more fluent and smooth, because optimally we want the eccentric part of movement, or the downward part of the movement, to be one consistent speed. The second thing that it does is it creates a more consistent touch point. It creates this touch point faster. So everyone sees that person that's just trying to bang out as many reps as they can, tap and go, and they're all just hitting all over their chest. When you are forced to bring the bar down and pause, it gives you that second to realize, did I touch too high? Did I touch too low? Or was that a good rep? So that's going to build more consistency in where the bar is touching every single time. Number three, it helps us create a more consistent bar path. So you're probably asking yourself, how does pausing help us create a more consistent bar path for a beginner learning how to do the bench press? And what it does is when you come down, and you'll see a lot of times if you pay attention to a beginner intermediate that hasn't done a lot of pause work before, is they'll come down and tap, and that bar doesn't always, for that first couple inches, come up in the same direction every time. Most of the time, which is probably the worst thing, is it rocks forward. When that rocks forward, you lose all your leverage, bar's out in front of you. It's just, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. So pausing gives us the ability to now tell the bar where to go, rather than it coming down and rocking forward or backwards and getting into a bad bar path. So it helps with the bar path being more consistent. So let's move on to the powerlifters. The powerlifters, you just watched the beginning of that video and were like, I already have a good eccentric speed. I already touched the bar where I need to touch it, and my bar path is already good. So I'm just gonna do tap and go. Well, here's three more reasons why a powerlifter should still pause the majority of their bench press. Number one, pausing your bench press creates more specificity. So in competition, we have to pause. So as powerlifters, we should practice that skill. And I'm going to give you two reasons that you probably didn't think about that you have to develop as a skill when you're pausing. One of them is going to be forcing that thoracic expanded position and keeping your chest up. If you're always doing tap and go work, you're not used to holding the load on your chest and keeping that thoracic expansion. Now, why I'm saying it's a skill is that most people are going to be able to do this. It's just going to be cueing it and developing it. That's the issue. Number two is going to be keeping leg drive throughout the pause. So if you watch one of my other videos, I do have an opinion on constant leg drive versus even, so I'm going to assume that you're keeping constant leg drive. If you are keeping constant leg drive, when you're tapping it, there's not a lot of time you have to spend creating a lot of tightness. If you're down there for a second or 2 seconds like you would be in a competition, it's a lot different to hold that full body tension and tightness in your legs. So it's going to help us build the skill associated with pausing, and it's going to give us more specificity, and we're going to be practicing the lift the same exact way we're going to be doing it in competition. Number 2, it builds more explosive strength by removing the momentum that we would get from doing touch and go reps. So I used this example on Swede's YouTube channel, and he did not like it. I still think it holds true. It's not as specific. It doesn't directly relate to the bench press, but it is a pretty good example, and I'll explain it. So if any of you have ever done a box jump before, you're always told, especially if you've done football or some athletic training and have had a trainer before, that you're not supposed to run up to the box and jump. When you're doing a box jump, you're supposed to start and just jump from that dead, stopped position. And the reason for this is when you run, you create momentum. That momentum helps you propel up in the air and get to a higher point, right? So you can do a higher box jump if you run. The same thing for you basketball players or anyone that is proficient at jumping. You know if you get a running start, you're going to be able to jump way higher because you're carrying through with that momentum. So the same as the box jump. When we're doing a box jump, we want to start from a dead stop position and jump because we want to be creating that explosiveness to carry ourselves to the top of that box rather than the running that we get create momentum with, carrying us through onto the top of that box. So the bench press is going to be the same thing. In the bench press, if we're always tapping the bottom of our reps, we're getting some of that momentum out of the bottom of the lift, and our body, our muscles, are not creating that force. The other thing someone could say too is you're getting more of a stretch reflex out of the muscle. That's true, but you're probably still getting some stretch reflex out of just pausing because you're in that stretched position. You're just not getting as much. It's about going to be the same thing if you were doing a tap and go deadlift. If you were to just drop the bar on the ground, the bar is going to bounce. As much as that bar bounces, that's how far we don't have to create force to get the bar to go. It's already going. And then if we carry through with that momentum, it makes the lift much, much easier. So pausing your bench press makes you a more explosive individual from that point. So my third reason, and I don't think a lot of people give this one really enough of credit, is just the ability to not mentally stress over pausing and to be mentally comfortable with pausing. If you're only pausing during meet prep, which let's assume at most 6 weeks, but realistically probably more like 4 to 2, it just doesn't give you enough of time to mentally get used to pausing. So you get down there in that bottom of that bench press and you're doing a 1 second pause, you're like, are they going to say pause anytime soon? The guy that's always there doing 2 or 3 second pauses, even somewhat often in training, is like, this is nothing. Tell me when you want to give me the press command. Oh, you gave me the press command already? Sweet. He's not worried about it. He's not thinking about it. And even if he does get a long press command because some judge wants to mess with him, he doesn't care. He's all set. And that's right, I saved you bodybuilders for last. So I do have a couple reasons why, even if you're a bodybuilder, you should pause your bench press. I think this is pretty obvious to say, but a bodybuilder doing a pause rep and a powerlifter doing a pause rep should not be the same thing. Although I am kind of giving you some reasons why a bodybuilder should do a pause, I just mean when a bodybuilder should do a pause rep, it's just enough to make sure the bar has stopped moving. So boom, stop moving, boom, stop moving. A powerlifter, we're probably going to be counting in seconds. A bodybuilder, it's just going to be enough of time that, hey, that looks like it might have been a pause on video, but it's ensuring that you're not tapping or doing a tap and go rep. Reason number 1, it creates more time under tension, and it's creating more time under tension in the bottom of the lift. So what's worst case scenario? You're gonna get better pec activation in the bottom of the lift. I understand that that's not like how most people think of time under tension, because they're thinking about the time it takes to come down in the eccentric or the time it takes to come up in the concentric, but we are adding time under tension by pausing, especially if we're pausing in the manner that I would recommend, which is keeping a nice high sternum and holding the majority of that pressure in your hands rather than let it rest on your chest. So it adds time under tension. Reason number 2, and I only have 2 reasons for this one, but reason number 2 why a bodybuilder should perform a pause bench is, again, like powerlifting, is it gets rid of the momentum in the bench press. Now, we're not doing it for the same reason that we did as a powerlifter. As a powerlifter, we're doing it because, again, we want to have more specificity, right? We want to get used to pausing, and we want to create explosiveness out of that dead stop position. Bodybuilder, you don't want to create this explosive movement with a crazy amount of speed, because again, you want to be contracting that muscle really hard, but we do want to kill the momentum in the lift so that the muscles themselves can be the one creating the tension, moving the weight, putting more muscle or putting more strain on the muscles themselves rather than using momentum. So maybe a bodybuilder will come down, slight pause, and then control it up. Come down, slight pause, and then control it up. Rather than a powerlifter, when they come down and they pause, they're trying to fire it up with everything. A bodybuilder doesn't care so much about it pausing for those same reasons as a powerlifter, but it is still to remove momentum so that we can get better pec, tricep, front delt, everything activation when we're benching rather than relying on that momentum. I will give you a few examples on why you may not be pausing. That being said, you're still pausing at other times during the week. You're just not pausing everything that you do. Say you're benching 3 times a week, you might pause once or twice a week, but there might be that one day that you don't perform any pauses. So what are some reasons why we would do that? Say we're doing tempo work, 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up. It's not really important that we're pausing. We're already coming down at a really slow speed, controlling the weight, and we've already done pauses on the competition lift on a separate day. So there might be some variations that pausing is not necessary because it is not what we are working on, but we have worked on it on another day already, or we're going to work on it later in the future. Maybe you're doing tempo work after your main competition lift, which you already paused. So why are we going to pause on the tempo work when we already have so much time under tension? Reason number 2, we're just doing a lot of reps. What if I told you we were going to do the combine and we're going to see how many times you could bench 225? Are you going to pause reps doing the combine? Hell no, we're not going to pause no reps doing the combine. What if I told you we're going to do 15 reps of any weight? Let's say we're going to do 95 pounds, 135. You're going to pause that? No. But that being said, we're still going to control the weight. We're not going to just bounce it and like just come streaming down, dive bomb it, and just try to create a whole bunch of momentum. We're just not going to pause it. We're still going to control it and treat it like we were going to pause it. We're just not pausing it. Now, again, if we're going to do more reps and we're not going to pause, we probably already paused either before, maybe it was on the same day, maybe it's after, later in the week, earlier in the week, but we still paused. This is probably doing some higher rep work. Maybe depending on, again, the variation that you're doing, you're not pausing, but those are my 2 reasons for the exception on why you may not be doing paused work. All right, well, that's all I had for you. I just feel like I had to give you some justification on why you should do some paused work. I mean, if you look at pretty much all the best bench pressers in the world, they pause. Julian Maddox, he looks like he pauses everything. It looks like he's doing a set of 10, he's pausing. He's doing the heaviest triple of his life with over 710 pounds or something. He was pausing everything. We look at John Hack, who is breaking the 198 records. I'm pretty sure he just benched the all-time record in the 198s or something along that line. He's pausing all his work too. So there's a lot of really great, the best pressers in the world all seem to have something in common, which is that they pause their bench press. I mean, look how many reasons I have for you. I'm pretty sure that's like 9 reasons. I have some paper right there with my reasons written down, so I didn't forget any of them for you. But if that helped you out, please give me a like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks, guys. That's all for me. Peace. Peace.
I don't waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sit